Hello, Om Shanti, and greetings for Diwali to everyone. So today we're going to explore the practical and personal meaning of Diwali. How can we apply this in our practical lives? Diwali is, of course, perhaps the main festival of the whole year, and it's celebrated with great happiness, both as individuals and also as communities, in fact also as a whole nation and in communities around the world. The festival of Diwali brings great happiness, brings people together. It symbolizes the victory of light over darkness, of truth over falsehood, and of goodness over evil. And perhaps more so than at any other time in history, the need for the victory of virtue over vice is relevant and important. It's of course important to start with our own selves. What does Diwali mean to me personally? What does it mean to me to ignite the light of truth within my own self, to honor that and to live from that place of light within my own being? Now, Diwali brings happiness, but happiness has a prerequisite to it. Before there can be happiness in a person's life, first there must be freedom. If there is freedom, then there can be real happiness. Now, for example, think of a prisoner who has no freedom. Somebody else decides when that prisoner can wake up, when he should sleep, when he should eat, when he should exercise, and so on. And since the prisoner does not have the right to his own freedom, he cannot really be happy. Now, the kind of freedom that we require in order to be happy in life is the freedom to think and to feel as I want, when I want. So a celebration of Diwali is also to look within one's own self and to see how free are my thoughts, how free are my feelings. Is my happiness really in my own hands, or does it belong to other people, situations, and circumstances? The kind of freedom that we all crave to have, this deep inner freedom, is indeed within our own hands. The freedom that can be taken away from us, for example, the freedom of travel, the freedom to worship, the freedom of movement, and so on, that's another kind of freedom which perhaps other people can control. But the one which is in my own hands is this freedom to think and to feel as I want and when I want. Now let's look a bit more closely at what we need to do in order to reclaim this freedom. And indeed, Diwali reminds us of the return of the king, when King Ram and Sita, when they returned back to their rightful thrones, their rightful position. So for me to return to my own true state of self-respect is indeed one of the aspects of Diwali. What is it that traps us and takes our freedom away from us? Now this is very much connected with a particular energy which perhaps is responsible for all the conflicts within an individual, but also all the conflicts we find in the world. And that is the three-letter word which we all know very well, and that is ego. It's the energy of ego which takes the self away from its true state of inner peace and happiness. Indeed, the 10 heads of Ravan also represent each head having its own different opinion. And the 10 heads all going in different directions. When we are under the influence of ego, it's as though there are so many opinions within my own self, and also then many different opinions amongst the people in the world. The more opinions there are, and the more attachment there is to personal opinion, then the more potential there is for conflict. And that's also something we find in the world today. So many ideas, so many opinions, so many points of view. And when we are entrenched in our own personal opinion about something, and somebody else is entrenched in their opinion, then you can see how a recipe for conflict is created. Sometimes Ravan is also shown with an 11th head, and that's the head of a donkey. And one interpretation of this is stubbornness. It's one thing to be wrong, but it's an even worse thing to not realize I am wrong about something and to be very stubborn about my position. So Ravan represents that kind of stubbornness, that kind of attitude that I alone am right. And if you have two individuals, both with that opinion, I alone am right, then cooperation and harmonious coexistence is not possible. Let's look further at understanding the inner landscape to see how this energy of lightness and darkness works within the self. As mentioned earlier, one interpretation of Diwali is the return to this state of Swaraja. I, the self, I return to my state of inner true self-respect. Now, what challenges this self-respect is when I'm identified with my ideas and my opinions based upon the ego identities which I have created. It is this coming into the ego identities which separates me from the truth within my own self. Ego is a form of spiritual darkness. And where there is darkness, there will be fear. Fear is one of those energies which eats up, which destroys our inner peace and happiness. Darkness exists in many forms, and perhaps the first and main form of darkness or illusion is that I am finite. I will finish one day. This body is me. And this we can describe as the first illusion in the human race, is that I am a physical being. I am a physical body. And due to this fear, there is insecurity. And where there is insecurity, there will always be worry, and there cannot be true rest or peace. In this context, the light represents the truth that indeed I am immortal. I am an immortal energy, an immortal soul. Now, it's not enough simply to know this. It's not enough simply to accept this or to believe this. But what is important is to live this. To live in this state which we describe as soul consciousness. Every day as we go through day-to-day life, to be aware of myself as the light, as the soul, the point of spiritual energy which lives in the center of the forehead. I, the soul, I, the living spiritual energy. How long can I maintain this awareness as I go through day-to-day life? If I'm in that awareness, I'm awakening this truth within my own self. The more I live in soul-conscious awareness, the more my fears will begin to dissolve. The more inner strength I will develop and be able to face all of my weaknesses. This is described as the first step in self-realization. I am an eternal soul, and peace is my nature. So this truth needs to be maintained and sustained, not only in a practice like meditation, but in fact throughout the whole day, to keep my light awake, to keep myself aware, to keep the light of truth burning within my own self. And the result will be that as I awaken this peace, this love, this truth within myself, I have more to offer to those around me. And you'll notice that there's a change in the dynamics of your relationships with other people. The more I am in the state of soul consciousness, the less needy I will be from other people. The need, for example, to be appreciated, the need for attention, the need for some kind of applause or acceptance. So my neediness reduces, my capacity to give and share increases. I'll have more peace to give to others, more patience, more understanding, more tolerance. And in fact, in that state, my light will become a great support for the people who come into my life, family, friends, work colleagues, and so on. The second awareness of true light is then also beginning to see others as the light, as the soul. And the realization that in fact every single soul, every light is a unique individual, and each one is playing their own part in this great, grand theater of life. One of the forms of darkness which takes away happiness in our lives is when we develop emotional attachments to other people and also to properties, to so-called possessions and objects. But light, truth, tells us that in fact nothing is mine. And also at the end of the day, no one is mine. We all play our parts in the grand theater of life, and we meet again and again at different times. But the reality is that every soul is a unique individual. If you live with this awareness that nothing is mine, then it means also that I have nothing to lose. And since I can lose nothing, this is the basis for real inner security. When a person feels very secure inside, you feel very free. It makes you very strong, very stable, and you feel very safe. And the result of that is a true and genuine happiness in the heart and in the mind. Now, the mind is, of course, described in many different ways in different traditions. But in this practice of Raja Yoga meditation, one of the aims is this, that it's my mind, so my mind should be in my control. Just as we expect our arms and legs to be in our own control, so too the mind is one of our non-physical organs, and it should also be in my own control. So one way to celebrate a real inner Diwali is to make this pledge or this contract with the self that as I go through day-to-day life, let me live as the soul. Let me live in the awareness I am an eternal soul. I am that eternal light, the one who drives this physical body. And when you come into interaction, communication, conversation with others, try to see the other person also as the light, as an individual soul. When we make this practice of soul consciousness deep and regular, then what happens is that quite naturally from within you, the feeling of love and respect, a genuine love and a genuine respect emerges from within you. And if you think about it, these are the two main things that human beings want from other human beings. Love and respect. And these may take different forms, may take giving acknowledgement or honoring somebody's individuality. But in essence, it comes down to these two things. If I am able to generate love and respect towards other people, then pretty much all the relationships that one has become smooth and harmonious. Now, in order to be able to do this, we of course need to have inner power. Words and ideas without power remain as words and ideas. And the way by which we can have that inner power is by linking our minds to the great, the supreme light, the supreme Deepak. And that we describe as the Supreme Soul, God, the one who is the infinite light. And so when we sit for meditation and we connect the mind with that supreme light, supreme mind, it's then that I'm able to charge my soul battery with power. And the power that you receive through that practice of soul to supreme soul connection, that power will then manifest in your life as the ability to bring up the best within you, to bring out the highest virtues from within you. So 2 simple steps, the journey inward and be aware of yourself as being the eternal soul, the eternal light. And 2, the journey upward, I connect my mind with the supreme light, the one who is known as the ocean of peace, the ocean of knowledge, the ocean of love, etc. When I, the soul, I connect my thoughts with that supreme light, then I download this energy of truth and benevolence into myself. And it's then that energy which I'm able to radiate out into my relationships and into the way that I deal with life. And the result is my happiness comes back into my own hands. So wishing you all a very, very happy Diwali.
आइए इस दिवाली संस्कार परिवर्तन का उत्सव मनाएं।